and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Kelsey Beckman and I'm glad that you could be here today. For today's video, I thought that it could be fun to read books from my 5-star authors. So get ready for that. Unintentionally, these are also all authors who write horror. Not all of them write exclusively horror. You'll see who they are as we get into the video. I also just wanted to apologize because it has been several months since I last put out a video, and that's simply because I have been in a reading slump. If I'm not reading, there's nothing to film, so it took me a while to film this video, but it's finally finished, so I am so excited to dive in. As always, before we get started, get yourself a snack, get cozy, and let's get into it. Okay, so today is the day that I get to introduce our first book for this video, and that is Lost Gods by Brom. What I can tell you about Brom is I've only read one book of his, but that one book quickly made him become one of my favorite authors. His work is masterful, in my opinion. His writing is absolutely incredible. The characters and the situations he creates tend to elicit emotions, and sometimes strong emotions, so it really pulls you into his work. And the writing itself is so beautiful that from the beginning it also pulls you in, so you become quickly invested, and the writing is just, it's absolutely incredible. And more than the writing, he also illustrates all of his own books. So as you can see, his artwork is also absolutely incredible. And he sometimes puts these little illustrations throughout the book for different sections that after you read that section, you realize how that drawing relates to the section. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's very cool, and I really enjoy seeing his artwork as well as reading his books. I actually started reading this yesterday night and I got about 50 pages in, and so far so good. He's blown it out of the water once again, and I'm excited to keep reading this and learning more about this world. What I know so far is that we have our main character Chet, and just based off of like the premise of the story, what I've read from the description is that he gets sent to purgatory basically, and he has to find his way out to basically save or be there for his wife and their child. So very interesting concept. I can tell you so far that this already has creeped me out. So, which is really hard to do since I read a lot of horror and I watch a lot of horror. Like, nothing really creeps me out that easily, but this so far it's creeped me out successfully, which is, I think, once again speaks to how amazing his work is. So, this is Brom. He definitely is one that I absolutely recommend 1000%. If you want to read what, like I said, I consider to be just very masterful horror. Okay, so I am here to update you on Lost Gods by Brom. I am 68% of the way through this book. It's actually taken me a while. Believe it or not, this video has taken, I think, close to a month now. And I'm still not finished with this first book. I read on my Kindle simultaneously with physical books, so don't worry. I've been reading other books, the other books for this video at the same time as this, but yeah, so it's been a while since I have updated. It's been taking me a while to get through the books. I've kind of been in a reading slump, honestly. I haven't been reading a lot, but I thought I would sit down and update you on my thoughts really quick. Also, it was my birthday a few days ago, and my grandma made me this gorgeous handmade quilt. So I am excited to curl up with this and read. So that will probably make an appearance in a lot of future videos. I'm gonna be honest, this book has turned out to be something that I honestly was not quite expecting. It definitely has elements of horror, but one thing about Brom is that he does a very good job of mixing horror and fantasy. In this book, especially with where we've been at for a while now with regards to where I'm at in the book, it feels more like a fantasy than anything else. It feels like a fantasy that takes place in this kind of purgatory type world, but it's a fantasy. Obviously, it's grim, or obviously, like, you know, it has some kind of grim, gory, dark elements to it because it takes place in like a purgatory type world, but it's mostly a fantasy. I don't know. So it's turning out to be a little different than I thought. In the beginning, it was very creepy, and I feel like now it's not that at all. But I'm still really enjoying it, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. Yeah, so, and I don't know why I didn't expect some of this, because I feel like that's kind of how Brom is. Like, he kind of mixes the two genres together, so yeah. I will say that he is absolutely creative, and I love a lot of the creatures and the elements of this world. But yeah, so to update you on this, it is pretty good so far, and I am excited to read more of it, and honestly to see how this book turns out, because I feel like it could go a lot of different ways. So we will see, but I am enjoying this fun, almost, like I said, fantasy world that we're in right now. It's very different and interesting, so we'll see what happens. Alright, so I am here because I finished Lost Gods by Brom. This book was pretty good. I rated it 4.25 stars. As I said in my last update, I feel like as the book continued on, it seemed more like a fantasy novel than a horror novel, but it just took place in a purgatory type world. And I feel like that really did carry through to the end of the book. It did have a lot of great things to say about God and beliefs, and like beliefs in gods, not just like one kind of God, right? But just I don't know, lots of things that I thought were really cool. To give you a bit of an understanding of what I mean by it has some cool ideas about religion and gods and that kind of thing, this is a quote from the book. "What I've come to understand is that a god cannot just take a soul, nor can a demon for that matter. A soul must give itself over to Jesus, to Buddha, Muhammad, Odin, and so on, to Satan even. A soul's will is what makes it a soul, That is why the gods battle so fiercely for a soul's devotion. Once a soul gives itself over, only then does that god have power over it. So, very kind of interesting ideas about that. It's very creative. I rated it 4.25 stars because I do feel like Brom did a good job of creating characters that you truly care about, and that you become attached to. And so I feel like that bumped it up to a 4.25 instead of just staying at a solid 4-star book for me. Yeah, I think it was a solid book all the way through, very just creative and interesting. And yeah, I mean, it kind of felt like an epic adventure in a way. If you like fantasy books that are like that, where it's like they're going on this long journey and there's, you know, there's something they're trying to complete or something they're trying to do, and they run into all these issues and things, it's a lot like that. There's a lot of things like that with it. So yeah, so I don't feel like I have much else to say about it. I thought that it was really good, and I do really think that through reading this, I've realized too that, and I don't know if this is the same through all of Brum's work, but that he does tend to have very interesting things to say when it comes to religion and worship and belief, and it's very interesting to me. I think it's interesting to hear you know, another person's thoughts and on subjects like that. So it's really cool to read about, and he definitely made characters who were interesting, very interesting. Fantasy world and everything is it's very grim fantasy, obviously, because it takes place in purgatory, but yeah. And so I feel like that's all I have to say on this book. So let's get ready to dive into our second book. Okay, so it's actually later in the day that I introduced Lost Gods, just because I usually read my Kindle at night and the physical book during the day. So it's actually time to introduce our second book of this video. Also, sorry if the cars are a little loud in the background, but it's just nice outside. The sun's about to set, but it's kind of warm, so I wanted to be out here. So our second book for this video is The Final Girls Support Group by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix is obviously one of my favorite authors, one of my 5-star authors. I have read 2 of his books. The 2 books of his that I have read are The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires and My Best Friend's Exorcism. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires I actually read in my Vampires and Valentine's Day video. If you haven't seen that, I suggest checking that out. That was definitely a really fun one to make. If I were to tell you a little bit about Grady Hendrix, I would say that he's very good at comedy horror. His horror is fun, and it has this kind of classic spunky horror feel to it. I don't know how else to explain it. Also, if you look up interviews of him, he is just in general a very fun, spunky guy. He also reminds me of Stephen King in a lot of ways. He has this casual way of writing that is just, it seems casual and nonchalant, but it also is fun and really good. Okay, so it's been a few days and it's time to update you on the Final Girl support group. I'm about 200 pages in, which is a good chunk of this book. So I thought I would update you on what I think. So the premise of this book is that the final girls from these slasher killer situations have a therapy support group with one another. And one by one, the girls start disappearing or being killed off. And our main character, who is one of the final girls, starts to become suspicious that all these things that are happening are connected and that somebody might actually be hunting down the final girls. So it's a very fun, unique premise to a book. And yeah, I have been loving this book. It is so fun. It's really fun. If you like slasher movies, like your classic slasher movies, you will love this book. It is fun, it is gory, it is campy, it is all the things that a classic slasher movie is. Not only that, but all of our final girls, their killers and their stories are based off of real slasher movies. Obviously, probably for copyright reasons, they aren't the actual ones that we know, but you have one girl who, her killer showed up to her summer camp. You have another girl who was a babysitter when this killer showed up. She was babysitting. You have one girl who her killer shows up in dreams. You have another girl whose boyfriend and his best friend, who were obsessed with horror, decide to play a prank and kill a bunch of their classmates and turn her into a final girl. And that's not an exhaustive list of all of them, but that's just some examples. Yeah, so if any of those premises sound familiar, yeah, you'll enjoy this book. This book is so fun. It also has a bit of a feminist theme, which is to be expected because it's Grady Hendrix. A lot of his work has a feminist theme to it. So, that's also been really interesting to read about, and reading about these women who went through a very traumatic experience, sometimes multiple times, and then were exploited because of that, because other people wanted to make money off of their story and their situation and off of their trauma. And not only that, but these women exploiting themselves. And I don't know, it's really interesting to me to read that dynamic of they're being exploited, but they also are kind of exploiting themselves at the same time. And that's been really interesting to read about. Our main character is flawed. She doesn't always make the right choice. She doesn't always do the good thing. And I really enjoy that, as I have said, and I will say it again until the day that I die. I love a flawed main character. I feel like it makes them more realistic, more relatable, and it makes me actually invested in their story more because they seem more like a person and not a fictional character. When a fictional character does the right thing all the time, then it makes it so that when they do make a good decision, it doesn't have as much weight. So when a character is flawed and they do something good, it hits the reader harder because this isn't somebody who always does the right thing, and they chose to do the right thing in this moment, and that makes that moment hold more weight. So I love that she's not perfect, and she sometimes aggravates you a little bit. You're like, oh my goodness, girl. But there are still redeemable qualities. And yeah, so I'm really enjoying this. It is super fun. And I'm actually kind of shocked because from what I've heard and what I've seen, a lot of people say that this is okay. Like, there's mixed reviews. I feel like a lot of people don't view this as their favorite Grady Hendrix book. And I've heard some people say, it's just okay. And other people say, yeah, it was good. So I wasn't expecting it to be like really good. I knew that it was going to be good because it's Grady Hendrix. But I just thought it was going to be okay. And so far, I'm really loving this. Like, I am so excited to read this every single day. Like, it is the highlight of my day. And, yeah, I feel like I really needed this. It's just fun. And it does give you some things to think about. Like, there is some good, like, content, some good, like, weight to what's going on in this book, and, you know, some food for thought. But at the same time, is simple and straightforward. And so I really like that. Yeah, I think this is going to be another win for Grady Hendrix, but I still have like 130 something pages to read, so we'll see what happens in that time, I guess. Okay, so I'm here with an update on the Final Girl support group by Grady Hendrix. I have 10 pages left of this book, so I thought that I would finish it here with you so you can kind of see my reaction before we dive into my thoughts and rating and everything of this book. I actually stayed up till like 3:30 last night reading this, and I decided to wait to read the last chapter on camera. So let's do that. Okay, so I just finished this book. I honestly don't know if I can give a definitive ranking right now. I think this is going to be one that's going to take a minute. It's either a 5-star read or a 4.75. I don't know. I think last night I was convinced that it was going to be a 5-star read, and the last chapter was still good. I feel like if I finished it last night, it would have been a 5-star read, but since I waited and read the last chapter today, for some reason it just didn't feel the same. So, I don't know. Okay, my final thoughts on this one. So good. I love the growth of our characters. I love all of the things that it brings up, as I mentioned before, like the food for thought, but it's also simple and straightforward and just fun. I think that there's a really good balance between those things. A lot of the things that it brought up, like, it gives you a lot to really contemplate, I feel like. But it's very fun, definitely just gory, a classic take on slashers. Yeah, and I feel like Grady Hendrix, the reason that I love him is because he does write fun, like, comedy horror that it is just fun, and especially if you are a lover of horror, but at the same time he tackles issues that we all experience. A lot of common themes in his book are like friendship, and grief and loss, and yeah, just things like that. So I feel like he does a really good job of making a story that we can all relate to, because it's things that we've all experienced, and things that we will continue to experience throughout our lifetimes, and he uses those as some of the main plot points, or like some of the main themes of the book, along with it just being a good, solid, fun horror novel. And that's why I really like him, because I do feel like his books are both fun but also have meaning, and they do tug at your heartstrings. They can be emotional, and I was thoroughly impressed. I love this book. Really good. Okay, so now that I finished the Final Girl support group, it is time to introduce our third and final book for this video, and that is Silver Nitrate by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I have read 2 books by Sylvia. The first one was Mexican Gothic, which I read last year and rated 5 stars. It's a horror novel. And the second one was Velvet is the Night, which I read earlier this year. I think I rated that one 4.25 stars. That one is not a horror novel. I'm actually not really sure exactly which genre it fits under. It's a noir novel. Takes place in the 70s, deals with shady dealings within the Mexican government and the kind of protests and things in the 70s against the government. Yeah, that was also really good. So I'm excited to read this one. This is another horror novel by her. Sylvia is really great because she writes, she's kind of like a genreless author, so she writes kind of whatever she wants to write. And even though I haven't read a ton of her work, the work that I have read is phenomenal, and I've heard that her other work is also phenomenal. Like, she is just really good at everything that she writes, which I think is kind of impressive that she can write multiple genres very well. And she, for me, is very much so one of those authors that has a very distinct voice. When I'm reading her work, I can tell that it is her work. I can't pinpoint why exactly. There's not like something that I can tell you that makes it unique or different. And I honestly don't know, if you just gave me a passage of her writing and didn't tell me like where it came from, if I would be able to tell that it's her. But when you're reading her books, it's definitely like, yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to be reading another Sylvia book. You can tell that it's her. It feels distinct. Her writing is very descriptive, and I feel like she does a very good job of creating atmosphere and making you feel like you are actually in the setting of the story. You definitely feel like you're there. So I'm really excited to start this one. She also, it is very clear that she is a horror fan herself, and so because of that, she knows how to write horror that is iconic and that really hits the nail on the head as far as what fans of horror are looking for, because she herself knows. On her paperbacks, she always has this like poster on the inside that somehow relates to the book for every single book, which I think is really cool. I'm assuming that this poster is for the film in this book. The kind of synopsis of this story, as far as I know, is that we have a young woman and her best friend living in Mexico City in the 90s. They discover that her best friend is neighbors with this director of an iconic horror film that has one scene that was never completed, filmed, or finished. And he recruits them to help him finish filming this scene. And as they are working on this, or as they get pulled into this, our main character starts to notice that things are feeling a little funky. I think it says that she starts to notice a dark presence following her, and her best friend starts to see the ghost of his ex-girlfriend. So there's something strange and spooky happening that has to do with this film. I don't know. Obviously, I haven't started reading this yet, so I don't know if that clearly explains everything that happens in the book, but that's kind of what I gathered from reading literally just the back of the book. So I'm excited to dive into this one. Okay, I'm gonna pause here real quick just to give you an example of what I mean by her writing's very descriptive and also very distinct. This is the first sentence of the book. An engorged yellow moon painted the sky a sickly amber hue, illuminating a solitary figure. I don't know if that makes sense, but maybe that hopefully helps to kind of explain what I meant. Okay, I don't even know if this is gonna make it into the video, but I just finished reading the first spooky, like, paranormal scene in Silver Nitrate. And y'all, I am not joking. Sylvia did it once again. I actually had to pause and get some Cheetos because I knew that this thing was coming up and I wanted to get cozy with a little snack. So that's exactly what I did. And I don't know why I'm so surprised. It is always this good when she does it, but it just like... her writing is just so vivid and it makes it so good that it's just like... it's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is just like my pure reaction after reading that first scene. So, yeah. Also ignore that those blinds are both broken. Our dog likes to look out the window and he broke the blinds and we haven't replaced them because he'll break them again. So, ignore that. A little embarrassing, but whatever. Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like it's so classic the way that she writes them, but also at the same time unique and with such vivid writing that it's just absolutely incredible. And I'm only 106 pages in, so I'm actually so excited for the rest of the book. We still have like 208 pages left or something like that, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so I am here because I finished our final book, Silver Nitrate. I rated this book 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed our characters and their relationship, like the dynamics of their relationship. I think that was probably my favorite part, along with just the atmosphere and the theme in general. I thought was really fun. I did say something when I was describing what this book is about that isn't like accurate. So it's not like this iconic, well-known film. It's actually a lost film. So if you like things like magic, lost film, and the occult, you will like this book. It's very fun. Definitely magical. It's not as scary as, like, I don't know how to explain it. It's still very atmospheric. There is lots of it that is magical and kind of fantastical and occult. There were some scenes that are very well described. She is so good at that, but I feel like a 4.25 stars makes sense for this one because it wasn't necessarily scary. Like, the story didn't scare me. There were scenes that were crazy and, just, scary in the way it was described, and kind of scary, freaky imagery, but the actual story itself wasn't very scary. One thing that I am also realizing the more that I read Sylvia is that I really enjoy her female main characters. They are all badass in their own ways, but also I feel like they're badass in a way that is more relatable. Sometimes I think that with a really strong FMC, sometimes there's pieces that we may see of ourselves in them, but it's almost like, I don't know how to explain it, but it feels separated from ourselves. Whereas her main characters and the way that they react to things and the things that make them strong and the ways in which they're strong feels attainable. It feels like what a strong woman would actually do, like a regular woman. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever, but both, like, for instance, both in this one and in Velvet Was the Night, our main characters are women in their late 30s, and they feel kind of overlooked and taken for granted and taken advantage of. They're overlooked in their professional lives and in their personal lives and in their romantic lives a lot of the time. And I think that that is really cool that she chooses women who aren't these young, pretty 20-somethings, but are women out in the world living a normal, regular life. And they still are the hero of the story, right? They're still badass. They're still strong. And I love that. Yeah. So that is one thing that I really am finding about Sylvia. And just her character development in general. I also love all the names she chooses for her characters. Like, the main character in this book, her name is Montserrat, and Velvet Was the Night, it was Maite. So I love that she chooses some more fun, like, Mexican names that aren't like copy paste from what you always see, and I think that that is really cool and a really great way to represent the culture. Yeah, there are definitely some quotes from this book that I think I will also remember. And oh, I forgot to mention, the magic in this is so cool. The way that the magic works and everything, and there's different like powers that are associated with different elements, like, you know, like earth, wind, fire, air. But at least to me, it wasn't something that was like immediately, oh yes, that makes sense. Although I feel like it is grounded in different cultures. Like I'm pretty sure that it is kind of based off of real ideas about magic and, you know, folklore and that kind of stuff. But it was really cool to read about. It was really interesting. Yeah. This is sadly the end, my friends. I hope that you enjoyed. I definitely enjoyed making this video, and it once again reaffirmed for me why I love the authors that I do. Obviously, my favorite book from this video was the Final Girl Support Group. I definitely do recommend it, but hopefully this introduced you to some new authors that you may not have read before, or has maybe given you ideas of some more books by authors that you may have read. But thank you once again for being here, and until next time.